Hi, this is Eric Metcalf, and you're watching the Unhappy Hour.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM network with TheNewAmericanMedia.com. My name is Brian Engelman. I am your host, and the NFL draft has completed. I loved David Akers from the Philadelphia Eagles trolling Dallas and then drafting a guy named Dallas. It was pretty savage, and it was in response to the Dallas Cowboys trolling Philly in Philly, so it's kind of a fun back and forth, and as long as you keep that stuff lighthearted, that can be some of the most enjoyable moments of sports. Talking to Squealer fans and having these rivalries like that team up north in the Ohio State Buckeyes. Sometimes you have a decade of yours, sometimes it's a decade of misery, and sometimes it's back and forth, but it is usually supposed to be fun. And the Cleveland Browns were one of the most fun teams to watch in this draft. No, we didn't get the Kevin Costner style of back and forth trading, dropping down, then trading back up and swapping all around. You saw a Browns team that kind of had a pretty clear idea of who they wanted. Turns out it was Baker Mayfield, and it also turns out that the New England Patriots were coveting Baker Mayfield as well, at least according to a couple of sources. So I decided to bring in Brandon Odell. Brandon has done radio shows with me back in college, and he has been joining us for the past 7 years. We had our birthday yesterday, but he's been joining us on Strictly Browns, pretty much talking Browns and Browns only until it got so annoying that we weren't going to talk nonstop about it, and we had to take a little bit of a break. But hey, this is our Super Bowl time with the New American Media. It's draft time. So Brandon, thank you again for joining us. I certainly appreciate it as always. What's your general takeaway from the draft? How do you think we did? Give us a letter grade, and then let's unpack it, starting with Baker Mayfield.
I would probably say a B, just because I think for an A-plus type of draft, you don't want to have had to kind of question any of the decisions that they made. Certainly I think a lot of people are questioning the Baker Mayfield pick, myself included. I did spend a little time kind of learning a little bit more about him. Have you happened, or if you happen to, check out his Behind Baker series? Have you seen any of those on YouTube?
I've seen it. I subscribe to it. I haven't dug into it completely yet, but I do have it in my feed somewhere. Yeah. What did you pick up from that?
Well, you have, I think what you picked up on is that maybe here's the thing. We were burned pretty bad by Johnny Manziel. Would you agree to that?
I agree with that.
And I think that Johnny Manziel was one who could talk a pretty good game, and definitely in front of the mic knew what to say to get everybody on his side. Would you agree with that as well?
To a certain degree, the answer is yes, but with a comma and with a caveat. I would say that the people that knew him, had the Browns actually done their homework and talked to the coaches and the teammates and the media who covered Johnny Manziel, the people who knew in the locker room what type of guy he was, how much time he dedicated to the craft, how well he studied, how well he improvised on the fly, how well he was able to take a new concept and integrate it seamlessly. I think those people, it's come out over the past few years, all the Browns had to do was do their homework to realize he wasn't a serious character. So yeah, I will agree that he was a pretty consummate BS artist, but I think a little due diligence would have easily caught on to the fact that was just a show. So yes, with the caveat.
And Johnny Manziel fooled everybody because there was nobody that was saying that he should be a first-round pick. Heck, Mel Kiper said that if you like him enough, then you should have taken him number one. With your first pick or whatever. Johnny Manziel was someone who he fooled everyone. Wasn't just the Browns. But anyway, the point is that going to be Baker Mayfield? You have these inevitable, I would say, comparisons that are being made between the two individuals. I guess my answer to all of that is I certainly hope that Baker Mayfield isn't that. He talks a good game. He seems pretty grounded. Definitely doesn't seem to have the same kind of issues with alcohol that Manziel does, although, like Manziel, Baker Mayfield has also been arrested for drinking. But then again, we've all made bad decisions in our lives.
We have. It was just the running from the cops that kind of escalated to like a next level of stupid. It's one thing to get caught. It's another to make it worse somehow, But sure, that was a bad day. I understand that. He's a kid.
So I have a hard time really having much to say at all about how Baker Mayfield is going to be, because I was so hyped about Manziel. I'm so hyped about Brady Quinn. I certainly didn't get all that hyped about Brandon Weeden. But definitely in the last 10 years, I would say Manziel and Quinn were two that had me, hoping a little bit. But everything that you hear about Mayfield, that he's a leader, that he's not just out to have a good time, that he's going to put in the work, he's someone who studies the game certainly far more than Manziel ever did. Nowhere near as much of an improvisational player, plays within the system much more. All of those are good things about Mayfield. Size is a concern. Is he going to be able to... the whole idea of, is he going to be able to hold up in the bad weather games in December and January that the AFC North has to play in? I think that is a little bit of, I disagree with people making that statement quite a bit because of the fact that I feel, first of all, your bad weather games, it might snow one game a year, it might rain one game a year. You're just not really dealing with them all that much. And frankly, it could have been the AFC East. It could be any outside of the Dolphins, obviously. It could be any of the other teams in the AFC East. It could be the, you could possibly have, certainly the NFC East outside of that. There are plenty of other teams that win with quarterbacks that don't necessarily have the Ben Roethlisberger mention because of supposed to be playing in these weather conditions. So I don't totally buy that, but do wonder if he's going to be able to hold up in his stock. But he gets the ball out quickly, supposedly. He makes good decisions and accurate decisions with the ball, supposedly. But we just got to see it on the field. I was kind of excited about Deshaun Kaiser. I was certainly optimistic about Deshaun Kaiser after how he looked against the Steelers opening day last year. And then we saw what happened there. So I'm going to withhold judgment on him, but there definitely were a lot of mixed opinions. Some people really liked him. Some people did not like Baker Mayfield. We were in the camp that really liked him. So let's go. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, you're a teacher, so remind me again, if you had to give the Browns a grade in the draft overall, I'm trying to remember if the phone cut out before you gave it. What letter grade did you give him again?
I'd say a B.
I would probably say a B-. I would be okay saying a B-. Real quick here, I want to roll through some of these things. If you're watching on this camera, it's Facebook Live. You can invite your friends. It's a private sports group. It's called The Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. So as long as you're a fan of the Indians, Cavs, Browns, or Buckeyes, we'll let you in. It's a private group, about 1,700 people. I want to say hi to Kyle, Mark, Brian. Brian's saying he'd give us an A for a grade, and he thinks Allen was the number one quarterback, and Rosen was a no-go, maybe the school he went to. Hi to Chris, hi to Carl. Brian is saying he really likes Avery, his favorite pick besides Chubb, Jannard Avery. We'll get to that in a minute. Brian was hoping Shaquem Griffin was a steal, or saying Shaquem Griffin is a steal when he finally develops in the pro level. Brian saying he likes Baker. Hello to Mike. Hello to Mark. Brian saying he thinks Baker would have gone to the Jets. even though the Jets aren't really built for him. Hi to Bobby. Brian's saying he seems like Baker knows how to separate fun from practice and game day. He's enjoying life. He's a young kid. He thinks we gave up on Kaiser way too early. He's, 21 years old? But he also says he's happy for Kaiser. Learning from the best is only going to make him better. He's going to be savage one day. Quarterbacks in Green Bay seem to learn from the last one and become generational players. Any of those comments you feel like jumping in on?
That's a lot of stuff that you threw at me there.
That's the shotgun out the back door approach. Absolutely. Don't sweat it. If anything comes to you, that's fine. I just wanted to say hello to everybody and make sure I acknowledge and read it into the record what they're talking about. But Baker Mayfield is, he went as the number 1 overall quarterback. Brandon, where did you have the top 5 quarterbacks ranked? Did you go so far as to pick your favorite and then work your way down as to least likely to succeed on the NFL level?
I think that like a lot of Browns fans, we were probably throughout the process we were most closely linked to Sam Darnold, and that Darnold was kind of maybe not universally, but when you're talking about or generally speaking, what we think of as the football prognosticator experts like Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, that kind of thing. For the most part, they all had Darnold as their guy, and Mayfield generally was number 3 or number 4 in a lot of people's lists. I can certainly say that I think that I probably had Darnold 1, and then probably Mayfield and Allen kind of 50-50. I was intrigued by Allen's skill set, as a lot of people are. Skill set only takes you so far, and as far as his skill set went, we already have that in the quarterbacks that we just got rid of. So I feel like if we were really that interested in buying into what Josh Allen was selling, then we should have never gotten rid of Deshaun Kaiser and just continued to develop him.
Yeah, we'll see how that move plays out over time. But it does make me feel good to know that the Patriots, if you can believe any of these stories, they were trying to get to trade up to number 2. They wanted to go up and take Baker Mayfield, and they're having a problem with Tom Brady. Do you make anything of that, or it's just much ado about nothing? I think it's a big deal.
Well, frankly, Tom Brady's old. He's been around a long time, and I would say you get toward the end of your career, and maybe you're starting to kind of, Tom Brady's at the point where he can nitpick just about anything he wants to, and he's at the point where, his decisions and his thoughts and feelings regarding the team are probably more important overall to the ownership than what Bill Belichick would have to say. So I would say that you certainly in that regard have to hold a high level of importance to what Tom Brady has to say. Dude has a couple of years left, so who's going to be the next guy when he's gone? I certainly don't fault the Patriots for wanting to get the next guy. But I would say that I really didn't see any possible way number 23 to number 31 plus a couple of second rounders was going to get you up to number 2. I just don't think that the Patriots have the ammunition to ever seriously do that. Now, to be able to say trade up to number 10 or something if Baker had fallen a little bit, I think that was a much more realistic option for them. But trading up to number 2, I don't know any team that has a top 3 overall pick, top 2 overall pick, and wants to trade that for the number 25 and 31.
Well, and even if they included next year's future number 1, you're still getting the number 31, number 30, number 29 pick. It's almost a second rounder too. So it's like, where's the upside here?
There's not a whole lot of difference between number 27 and number 37 in the draft. There's a much bigger difference between number 24 and number 2.
Correct. Yeah, that's a lot of draft capital to make their way on. But let's go to number 4 real quick, because the Cleveland Browns, maybe they would have taken Saquon. The thoughts were maybe they should take him at number 1 and see if their quarterback would be waiting for him at 4. Do you like the fact that we didn't go that route, or does it not matter because you would have loved to see Saquon in a Browns uniform? Where do you stand on that question?
Pick your quarterback. Stop screwing around with it. If you really like the guy, pick him. That's what they did. They got Nick Chubb in the second round. They already have Carlos Hyde, the position, and they have Duke Johnson. The position wasn't the position of need. If they didn't have either of those guys, and it was just a Matthew Days, your top overall back for the team, then I would probably have. I would try to do that and see which quarterback you can get it for. But no, I think they did the right thing, getting their quarterback first to start him down and out of the way. Now the talk is coming out about other teams that were interested in Mayfield and what Mayfield for. Now, with that said, Ward certainly is one that, another one that had a lot of people scratching their head. I've had some time to marinate on it and think about it a little bit more. I guess if you say that this is a guy that's going to be able to effectively cover the likes of Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, A.J. Green, and whoever the Ravens are going to throw out there, then it's a great fit. But I think that there are a lot of Browns fans that have said about having that New York Giants circa 2007 pass rush of like Michael Strahan and Jason Pierre-Paul in their prime, and with a Myles Garrett, Bradley Chubb mix. Bradley Chubb. We have Denzel Ward. We'll see what happens. I certainly like to see him picking up some Ohio State plays. They haven't done that in long enough, so that was kind of cool. But he was really a one-year starter. I don't know what to expect from the guy, but if he can turn into a Joe Hayden type play, then it is a great pick.
Yeah, before the injuries really started deteriorating Joe Hayden's abilities. Yeah, and obviously I played defensive end, Brandon. I played on a really good team, made the playoffs, 2 years in a row in high school when I played. I love the defensive end position. I love the pass rush. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. But if you have a lockdown corner, that's going to be an extra half second that all that defensive line and all those linebackers are going to have to get in there and get some hits on the quarterback. So, I say this, and I've said it with you over the past 7 years, how many different times with how many different regimes. You really just have to give each general manager team, you got to give the front office 3 years to empty out the cabinets, to stock them with what they want, to re-sign the things that they do like, and to groom them and coach them and turn them into something. I mean, Denzel Ward, he was the guy that sat out the bowl game because he didn't want to get himself hurt for the NFL, right? I mean, is that something that – because even Myles Garrett, he has skill, but people have questioned his heart and, wondering if he's not willing to play through some stuff and, that he's a little bit more concerned about other stuff than winning the games. There's two different mentalities. You can go out there banged up as you could imagine and you're going to tough it out, or you're going to just sit it out, So I guess that was a concern with Myles Garrett and with Denzel Ward not playing in that bowl game. Do you think there's anything to that?
Not really. I'd say that at this point, so many of these guys, you're talking $20, $30 million on the line for them. I'm not going to fault the guy for taking care of number one. It's a little bit selfish, but at the same time, if it's selfish because you need to be able to buy your mom a house, or you have a child on the way. Well, there are a lot of different reasons where I'm not going to fault the grown man for making a grown man's decision.
That's fair, and I'll give you that. We'll see how that pans out. But they've definitely been addressing that secondary, trading with Green Bay and a few other things that they've done to try to bolster that side of things. And I think that they think Emmanuel Ogbah is going to be the real deal, and maybe Schobert's going to be the real deal, and some of these guys are going to be able to really clean some stuff up. there is talent on this defense, and maybe if you can get Peppers back on the field as opposed to 55 yards downfield every play, maybe they'll start making plays too. Are you confident in the defense, or did you really want to get Chubb? Like, do you think this is going to work out, or where do you stand on the defense in general?
This is something that I believe Dorsey said along the lines. You want to have at least one elite player at defensive end. You want to have one elite corner. So I guess the hope is that now we have one of each right now, and then you fill in gaps with really solid players. So hey, if Denzel Ward turns out to be the real deal and lives up to a top 10 draft status, then no one's going to be complaining. The last time we got a top 10 corner, it was the Manziel year with Justin Gilbert, who was even a bigger bum than Manziel was.
Go figure.
So, frankly, if it works out, if he ends up giving it to a stats, then that's going to be a great move, and no one's going to complain one bit. But you have 80 million mock drafts that come up during the 3 or 4 months into the football season ends. And when 79 million of them had us taking Bradley Chubb at number 4 in a dream scenario, he's right there waiting for you, and you didn't pick him. I can see why a lot of fans were a little bit upset about that. But here we are. We don't have Bradley Chubb, and I guess Denzel Ward versus Antonio Brown. That's going to be a pretty exciting thing. I can't wait for training camp to hear a little bit about how he's holding his own against Josh Gordon and Jarvis Landry. He certainly has some players who are going to give him a pretty severe test right off the very bat.
Yeah, the Browns' offense is totally transformed. Maybe we can get to that overview when we bounce down to Antonio Callaway. But let's move on with Austin Corbett, offensive line, Nevada. Obviously, Joe Thomas retiring. Did you have a chance to watch any footage of this guy? Any thoughts on the pick? Do you think he's going to stay at tackle or move? Bounce over to another position on that line? What do you think there? I by the way, for the record, I love drafting offensive line in the top 3 rounds every single year. I just think it's the backbone of an offense, but what do I know? What do you think?
I think that they wouldn't have drafted him that highly if they didn't think that they could plug him into that left tackle spot. Sean Coleman, I think, provides you some really solid depth. I think, but it could possibly be maybe Sean Coleman ends up sticking around at right tackle. And then you have some of these other guys that they've signed over the offseason to provide some more of that depth. Spencer Drango ended up giving up like 11 sacks or something in his games that he was filling in for Joe Thomas. So, he's a guy that's better suited certainly to be a backup at best. So Corbett, let's see what he can do. He's supposedly a Joe Bitonio player that came to school. He modeled this game after Bitonio, so we'll see what we get from him. But same with all these players. I mean, you can make the guessing game all at once and actually get out on the field against opponents in the regular season. Who knows what we're going to get from a lot of these guys? You know what I'm saying?
I do, and we do this every year, but it's fun. This is sometimes the most fun we have all season is, preparing for the future. You mentioned Nick Chubb out of Georgia with the gruesome knee injury. What do you make of teaming him up with Carlos Hyde? I personally love it. I think it's great that they're not going to overwork the guy with the serious leg injury in Chubb, and that they're not going to overwork Hyde, who always kind of seems nicked and dinged up, and he's getting a little bit too heavy of a workload. I think it's great. What are your thoughts on Chubb? Because, obviously people were dreaming of Saquon. What's your takeaway from watching some footage of Nick Chubb and how he's going to fit into the backfield?
Chubb is 2 years removed from his knee injury, which makes me feel a lot better about things. If you look at what his stats were this past season, actually, he was really, really good. And so certainly feeling very good about that. I think that he's someone who definitely could be the power back of the future. Carlos Hyde is only around for maybe a year or two. I think that both he and Carlos Hyde complement Duke Johnson very well. I see a lot of interesting sets. Todd Haley is a great offensive coordinator with calling empty set backfield, where maybe you have Duke and you have Duke lined up, and then he's going to split out wide. And you have Jarvis, you have Duke, maybe you have Njoku. They just have so many mismatches they can play around now, and Chuck can be banger up the middle still. So yeah, I feel really good about the Chubb decision. I think that he'll be a solid player for us, and I think that he was one that, like the Denzel Ward pick, that there are definitely some people who maybe didn't necessarily question Denzel Ward's talent, but they questioned the pick along with the value that you got at that particular draft spot. And I think that the most common was someone who had an early to mid second round grade. So that's where we got him. So value meets production, and hopefully he lives up to where we picked him up.
All right, Chad Thomas, defensive end Miami. Do you have a chance to look at him? Any thoughts?
I know that he's supposed to be a run stuffer, probably along the Emmanuel Ogbah mold. Very big, very strong. Also supposed to be a music producer. I guess he produced some stuff for a few very talented hip-hop artists and stuff. So the only knock on him is the kind of like the cliche of he really loves football. So I've heard that a little bit about him. It's about the only knock on him. He's a rotational guy. He'll come in there along with Nassib Orchard. One of those guys is probably not going to make the team, as well as Chris Smith, who was signed off the Bengals in the offseason. So there's going to be room for 4 or 5 of those guys, and obviously a draft pick is going to have the upper hand on any of the past regime guys. So yeah, Nassib Orchard, I think those guys are going to really have to be playing the butts off to even make this team.
Well, Chad Thomas, if he's a music producer, has he worked with Drake or Victor Oladipo, since we're playing, going through the playoffs right now, and you're learning about all these guys, and they're jumping into the Toronto Raptors and Indiana Pacers storyline? Have you ever heard Victor Oladipo's music?
No, but I would love to see him teamed up with LeBron on the Cavs next year. If that ever have a snowball chance and HE double hockey sticks happening, but that dude's a heck of a ball player.
Yeah, I liked him when he came in with Orlando, and obviously he learned to take on some of the Russell Westbrook stuff, minus some of the ball hogginess. Yeah, that was a tough Pacers series, but that's another conversation for another day. Antonio Callaway, some people are saying he's the biggest. He has the potential to be the biggest steal in this draft. Wide receiver out of Florida. He had some issues off the field. What do you make of this? Watching his highlights, watching where his projections may have been, if not for character issues, reminding us of, say Josh Gordon. What do you make of Callaway?
4th round pick. So roll the dice. What's the big deal? 4th round guys and below. You're hoping that maybe in 2 to 3 years they can develop into a quality rotational player for you, if not a starter. But if they don't, I'm sure we can look at the draft of the last 5 or 6 years and find some names of some individuals that you had kind of forgotten about. Think about Jordan Payton was like a 6th or 7th round receiver from a couple of years ago. Gone. You're thinking about some of the guys that we had that have been some of these lower draft picks. Ricardo Lewis, Rashard Higgins. Higgins has maybe hit a couple of moments, but neither of them have set the world on fire. So these late round receivers, you see what you get from them, and if they can get in there and compete a little bit, that Caleb Brantley with the character issue got last year that he gambled on later in the draft, and he ended Why
Yeah.
not? I don't know why people are making such a big deal about it. You see what you can get out of them, and if it's not much, then Hugh isn't on the team up that long.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's a good point. At that point, that's a place to, if you want to reach for a kicker or punter, if you want to reach for a special teams player, if you want to get a developmental project or some character issues and see if they can turn themselves around. Everybody's entitled to some mistakes in life. Yeah, you're right. That's a good location to go ahead and get them. It did cost us a third-round pick to get Tyrod Taylor, but I'll say taking a Pro Bowl quarterback with playoff experience, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world to get Tyrod Taylor for a third-round pick. That's your instant starter. Something we didn't talk on, is Tyrod a lock to play this whole season, barring injury, or do you expect to see Baker Mayfield either start or start by the bye week or something like that? What's your gut instinct at QB?
So if he is playing well, he will play the whole season. But even that, I mean, remember, last year Buffalo sat him for a game to play the much less heralded Nathan Peterman for a game. And that lasted for about a half before he threw 5 interceptions and Tyrod Taylor was back. So I'm going to say that they have every intention to give Tyrod Taylor the keys to the car and let him drive it for as long as he can stay on the straight part of the road. But if he starts to veer a little bit into oncoming traffic and starts to make the coaching staff feel uncomfortable, because let's face it, Hugh Jackson, if he has another crummy season with all of these extra talented players the team has, he's gone. That's all there is to it. He's history.
Absolutely. Hugh Jackson was not the John Dorsey pick. He inherited that. And they're saying, all right, look, you got some familiarity. It'd be nice to not overhaul the entire roster and scheme again. Todd Haley, you're going to take over the offense. Hugh, work with him on that and with quarterback. Let's solidify this defense with Greg Williams. Some people like Brian in the chat room here saying he wished Greg Williams was the head coach. And let's see what happens. I mean, Hugh, at least they're giving him the chance to put some NFL quality caliber talent around him before they judge him. Now, I have not seen very much out of Hugh that has given me too much inspiration, but you got to kind of like the Steelers' philosophy of get somebody in there and groom them for a few years, kind of work with them and stick with it until you get it together. Not everybody's good their first year. Sometimes it takes them a little while. So who knows what we have in Hugh Jackson, but I think you're right. I think the leash is short for Tyrod Taylor and for Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson especially so. Wrapping this up here, these are some later round picks. I just wanted to mention them. I know we didn't, late round picks we don't have as much information on or expectations they're going to contribute, but I did like Jannard Avery, linebacker out of Memphis. Brian in the chat room liked him as well. I thought he took really good angles. He had a real quick pursuit to the ball, a nose for the ball. He just quick, and he's big.
He's a former powerlifter, I believe.
I wasn't aware of that, but he's got some skills.
So someone who competes in strength competition. So definitely that's part of his game is strength. But yeah, when you're talking about 5th, 6th round linebackers, and these are guys that are going to be filling out. When you talk about your 53-man roster, these are guys that are going to be players between 47 and 53. If they're active on game day, it's because of the fact that they're making some plays on special teams. But let's face it, last year with some injuries to the linebacking corps, think about Jamie Collins. We had some guys that were playing some minutes, but like B.J. Bello was one, and there was someone else. But Tim Carter is back, so yeah, I would say that Jannard Avery, is that right, Jannard?
Yeah, Jannard, and Brian is saying he is a power lifter, and don't forget Jamie Meter in that interior line as well. Another name.
So there's going to be you're going to be surprised. There are going to be a few players for the Browns that are going to see getting cut. maybe possibly before start of training camp, maybe after veteran camp, you might find a few guys getting an early release so if they can get a jump on trying to catch into another team before the season and to give them a little bit of do them a little bit of a foul like that. So there's going to be a few players that are going to come and go. Jannard Avery, hopefully he's a guy that can surround for special teams, and if not that, maybe even be a practice squad player.
And Brian in the chat room is saying he feels like Collins needs to step his game up. Also mentioning that Tyrod's leading receiver for the Bills was a running back, and with weapons, Tyrod can actually be somebody. And I'll tell you what, with Corey Coleman sliding down to the number 3 wide receiver, if he can even beat out Callaway, with Njoku and Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon and Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde and Nick Chubb, I don't know what the heck happened, but it seems like we resemble an actual football team that can put points on the board this year and not turn it over every stinking opportunity we have like Kaiser did last year. We'll do this then. Damian Ratley, wide receiver, Texas. Simeon Thomas, cornerback, Louisiana Lafayette. Shall I just assume you don't have much to add on those two?
I know nothing about either of them except the fact that I think the same thing as with Jannard Avery. You're talking about guys that are going to fill out the back end of your team. Maybe guys that are going to be competing with some of these undrafted free agents for a spot in the 53-man. If not, they might be looking at practice squad.
Got it. Well, then how about this? Call your shot. What is the Cleveland Browns record going to be this season? If you had to go right now.
Well, if I were you, I'd say 16-0, right?
I always say 16-0. You're right. I have a real prognostication as well, along with my 16-0 though.
The NFL didn't do the Browns any favors by starting with the Steelers again, and then don't we have I feel like our first 2 or 3 games are pretty tough. Like we have the Saints and maybe the Ravens again or something like that. But I know we're starting with the Steelers.
We almost beat them in game 1 last year, and I say if Myles Garrett played that first game, we would have beat them, and it would have totally changed the trajectory of that season. I think we gave away about 3 to 4, maybe 5 wins last year, just on the stupidity of Kaiser and the poor play calling by Hugh Jackson, but I digress. But once again, people are looking at the schedule going, oh, you play the Browns, that's easy. No, I don't think the Browns are easy at all this year. I don't think they're an easy out like they used to. So, we always geek on the schedules, but I've kind of learned to at least temper that a little bit. So I don't know if I put a lot of stock into that. But anyway, now that we've stalled a little bit and you've had a chance to ponder again how many wins you think this winless team could squeak out in 2018, what are you thinking, B? Regular season.
7 wins if Tyrod Taylor starts the whole season. 4 wins if Baker Mayfield starts the season.
And I have 10 wins and 6 losses. I think the offensive firepower is amazing. I think we've given Todd Haley, a very experienced and successful offensive coordinator, everything that he needs to get the job done. I think that's going to free up Hugh Jackson to focus on the clock management, the general overall strategy. I think Greg Williams with a few new players and toys to play with. I think Greg Williams is going to dial it up like a mofo. I'm thinking 10-6, and I don't care if it's Tyrod or if it's Baker. I think both of those quarterbacks, surrounded by the players that Jarvis Landry, Carlos Hyde, Josh Gordon, these are real NFL players. Nick Chubb, Duke Johnson, these guys can make plays. And if you do it the right way, I think we can crush some teams. And I think our defense wasn't, our defense was definitely the problem in a few of the games last year. But overall, our biggest problem was offense. So I'm saying 10-6. I'm saying 10-6, and we're in the playoff hunt. We're going to be in the conversations throughout the whole year. I think we're going to be really competitive. I think the Ravens are going to stink. I think Cincy's going to stink. And I think Pittsburgh's starting to work their way down. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but time will tell on the record. Brandon, just a couple. We've wrapped up the main portion of the show. Just a couple quick hits on our way out the door. JT Barrett was going to go to the Colts. Now he's doing tryouts and actually signed with the Saints. Any thoughts on JT? You think he can make the squad? I've heard it's a long shot.
I would say it's a long shot. I'd say it's probably the CFL, Developmental League, that kind of stuff. He'll probably be playing alongside Johnny Manziel somewhere pretty soon.
What about Sam Hubbard from Ohio State? He's playing down with the Bengals. Any thoughts on Sam? I was kind of hoping we could get him.
Cincinnati guy, he's going home, so good for him. Hopefully, he does well there.
The Cavaliers dispatched the Indiana Pacers, and just an epic game in which we never led in regulation, and we were able to pull it off in overtime and steal Game 1 against Toronto. Thoughts on the Cavs so far, and thoughts about the Cavs moving forward against the Raptors?
If LeBron gets help like he did in Game 1, I think that we have a chance. If he's having to do it himself, no way. If he's the only one hitting shots, and JR and Korver and Love, and if he's not getting any real contributions from those guys, we've got no shot. But if LeBron is able to be a ball distributor as well as a scorer, and the other guys are knocking down those shots, because those open threes are always going to be there when LeBron is slicing down the middle. So if the guys are knocking down their shots, and we definitely are a very streaky team. So if they can start getting hot, then anything is possible. Short of winning the NBA title, I don't think there's any way we're going to be able to do that. But if we get hot enough, I think we could possibly still squeeze out of the East.
Hey, with LeBron on your team, I've always got to give us a chance to pull off the upset. We did it against the 73-win Warriors before, and let's just keep advancing and see what happens. I mean, the Sixers and Celtics. Are you following any of the other series? Are you watching Houston or Golden State, or not so much? Just kind of checking in with the Cavs.
No, the Western Conference games are past my bedtime.
That's fair. They're normal time for me, but that's all right. The Cleveland Indians got 3 home runs out of Edwin Encarnacion today, sitting a few games up in first place in the AL Central. Any thoughts on the Tribe's young season, or Trevor Bauer and what he's doing, calling out the Houston Astros for tampering with their baseballs? I'm not sure if you've been following that story, but any thoughts about the Tribe in general so far this part of the season?
Maybe they're starting to heat up a little bit. If you can get kids going, I think we'll be in good shape. And Brantley hit that grand slam yesterday. You really thought that they were going to end up pulling that one out. So that kind of stunk when they weren't able to do that. But good try so far. Early in the season, cold weather. There's a lot of teams that aren't hitting well. So, join the club there. We'll see. They've gotten some pretty big streaks of winning the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to win a row again. But, if you get another 14, 15-game win streak in at some point, we'll see what happens.
I'll take a 37-game winning streak. Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know if it's something about those Cleveland teams. The Browns lost 16 in a row. What did the Tribe win? 20, how many in a row? What did they get up to? 20?
2, I thought.
22. Yeah, I have 21 hanging on my wall in the office from the game that I attended. But yeah, so 22 in a row from the Indians last year, 16 in a row for the Browns, and the Cavs were really streaky at a certain point, maybe in the first half of the season this year. So yeah, maybe something in the Cleveland water, that burning river, is making us really streaky. There's a lot of jokes that could be made on that, but I'll leave them alone. All right, Brandon, is there anything under the sporting world that you wanted to briefly touch on before we roll you out the door, sir?
No, my friend. You're going to go and relax and enjoy a bit of the Ohio twilight weather. It's about 72 degrees and feeling good. So.
Nice, man. Well, send my love to all the important people in your life. You know who we're talking about. And definitely appreciate you coming on the program again today. I don't know when we'll talk again, but let's definitely do another one of these. This is perhaps the most excited I've legitimately been about the Cleveland Browns in a very long time. Would you agree with that statement?
I don't know. We say the same thing every year. So it's probably the most excited we've been since this time last year.
All right, I'll give you that. Granted, well said. No truer words have been spoken, but I really do feel like something's different this year. Time will tell. Brandon, appreciate your time. Go Browns, man. You have a good evening. Thanks for your time.
All right, go Browns.
All right, peace. All right, guys, there goes Brandon Odell. I want to thank you for watching. If you're on this camera, you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. Click subscribe. Click the little bell for notifications. More content will be coming. We've been doing a lot of sports because pretty much every time we cover current events, our stuff gets shadow banned and demonetized and flagged and all these sorts of tricks that YouTube is doing. They don't like when I cover current events and politics for some reason, so we've been doing a lot of sports. But more content is on the way, and it's on the way soon. So click subscribe, follow the journey. We celebrated our 7-year anniversary yesterday, so that's a lot of fun. Instagram, you got to follow us over there. We have 2 pages, one for the New American Media and one for the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. Facebook.com/ it's a private group on Facebook called the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. So link up with us over there. Click subscribe on YouTube. Twitter at American_media_. Definitely both Instagram pages. And if you'd like to help fund what we're doing, we have a Patreon page. Patreon.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. So I just want to say thank you for watching. Now, if you're on this camera, you're watching on Facebook Live. Thank you very much to everybody who jumped in there. Brian Marlin, what's up, man? Thanks for participating today. Appreciate the comments and the questions. He's saying Edwin will always have games like today. He's J.R. Smith, on or off. Yeah, not a lot of dimmer switch. Feast or famine, if you will. But thank you for joining us here. Invite all your Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeye fans to this group because it's a heck of a lot of fun. It's like Brian was saying. He was typing all these comments, watching the show. He's like, dude, sorry about all the comments, but I love this page. And so thank you for saying that. But really, it's the interactive Cleveland sports page that you wish existed before I had to create it. For me, it's the best thing out there. I occasionally turn on ESPN or check other sites, but it's like all of the subscribers, all of the group members in the Unhappy Hour. It just makes it so enjoyable to see all of these awesome comments, the funny stuff, the breaking news. Like you guys and gals are absolutely fantastic. I appreciate each and every one of the 1,700 or so of you that are on this journey with us, rooting for sports and finding interesting storylines and having a lot of fun with it. With the New American Media, we say we're seeking truth, challenging dogma, and having fun. So that's, the Unhappy Hour has always been a part of the New American Media. I have always loved sports, and I really appreciate the online communities that we've built. But definitely follow us on Instagram. It's a fun page, and that one is sports only. As much as sports can be sports only without the usual overlap into politics when it happens, but the New American Media page is a mixture of things, politics and current events and sports, but it's all sports on the Unhappy Hour Instagram page. So link up with us there. Brian saying Columbus Blue Jackets wish they wouldn't have lost. Yeah, well, what do they say? If my aunt had different hardware, she'd be my uncle. So it didn't happen. Hey, whatever works. Wait, are you asking me to invite you? I don't know how I'm actually clicking, and I don't see how to invite you, Brian. All it says I can do is pin the comment, delete the comment, block you, or like the comment. So, I don't know. Tell me off air. Shoot me a message on the Facebook group, and we'll see if we can bring you in. So, anyhow, thank you guys. Thank you, girls. I appreciate you. I love you. Here at the New American Media, celebrating 7 years on May Day. Yesterday, 7-year anniversary. Seeking truth, challenging dogma, and having fun. Thank you so much for your time. We'll talk again soon.